Dude, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm glad we got this to work. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, nice.
How's life going for you?
Pretty good. Happy to be back. First time home in the summer in a long time. So, trying to enjoy it right now.
I was gonna say, good to have you back in the States. When we were setting times, I wasn't sure if you knew I was talking Central Standard Time or, you lived all around the world, it feels
Yeah.
like. So
No, it's all Central Time now for me.
that's awesome, man. Well, I know a lot of people have been cheering you on, following you over in Korea the last couple of years, and I thought you'd be a good one to start. I got a little series I'm gonna start talking to people around the area that have been big sports stars, whether they're current athletes or people like you that have just like made a big impact on the scene. So just really interested in digging into your history, and I know a lot of people want to listen along. So first off, Central Illinois roots. You don't see a lot of people with your resume, what you've been able to do here in Central Illinois. Are you able to grasp really what you've been able to accomplish in your career?
Yeah, I mean, probably not yet. I haven't really looked back on it that much. But yeah, I mean, I've always understood that, I'm a fortunate guy, coming from a small town in Virginia and ended up all the way in Seoul, South Korea. Like, sometimes you sit back and you're like, man, I can't believe where we are now, how we got to this. So, no, it is cool. And I'm sure it'll sink in a little more, once I've, completely finished and can look back and all that's left is the memories of what we've done. So, but yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Well, I can see just from the comments right here, there's a flood of people from Korea hitting you up right now. Were you able to carve out a pretty good niche for yourself over in Korea, whether like becoming a fan favorite or just a known person in the streets?
Yeah, I think so. More than I actually realized. When I got released because I got hurt, the team did a little farewell thing for me, one of the games, and it was a day long event. Fans were showing up in droves. It was crazy. It was really awesome to see all the fans show up. And as a foreign player over there, you're not ever really, you're different. You're just not part, like, you're there to perform. And I've always treated it that way. And to see after 5 years that the fans appreciated me even though I was a foreign player, that was it was special. It was a really special thing. When they released me, for it to go and finish that way, it was awesome.
Well, I want to talk about Korea. I want to talk the major leagues, but first I want to talk about, your grassroots, Virginia, Illinois. As a young kid, what got you interested in playing ball?
Oh, I don't know if there was anything specific. It's just when you're a kid, you play all the sports. You play t-ball and basketball and I just enjoyed playing sports, and after a while I enjoyed playing baseball a little more than everything else, and just kept playing and playing, and any chance I'd have to play in a game I'd play one, and it just kind of grew from there. But I started in t-ball just because that's what everybody did.
So you get to high school. Did you know you had something special at that point, or were you just kind of figuring things out?
uh I mean, I knew I was good for the area and that, but I had never thought about more. Like, I figured I'd go play college ball at Lincoln Land or something like that. I have a good relationship still with Bull there at Lincoln Land, but and then, like, my junior year, I got invited to a few, like, prospect things, and did really well on those, and nobody had heard of me, but they're like, you're pretty good, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm all right, but I didn't. They're like, you're gonna have to decide if you want to go pro or go to college. And I'm like, that was just beyond me out of high school, and I didn't. I never wa- I It was a good decision for me to go to college because I needed that natural stepping stone, because I wouldn't have been ready for that pro life out of high school, because I was just pretty innocent to what the game was at that point, and what it required. And so, yeah, I mean, it kind of happened fast, in high school. I didn't really realize how talented I was, and then just like that, it kind of changed.
Any special memories jump out from you in high school? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of guys that you remember facing, or is there any big moments that you could think of?
I mean, you kind of remember the good game. I try not to think too much about like the individual stuff, the game, like, but you remember the relationships, the fun you had. Like, my summers were spent with a travel ball team, playing travel baseball. Like, it wasn't, I probably played more than I should have even, but those were my memories. Was the fun I'd have with, there's a lot of Pleasant Plains kids, and that was the fun of the travel baseball, the going out there playing every day, 3 times a day. Like, that was fun. So yeah, I had individual games. I had no hitters. I had games with a lot of strikeouts, but I try to focus on the relationships and the fun I had.
So in 2007, you get drafted by Cleveland.
Right.
Is that like a surreal moment for you where you're like, I could have something special here?
Yeah.
Or were you ever even, was that even considering going pro at that time?
I was never considering it. I had talked to a few scouts, at some travel ball games, but I knew that I wasn't going to be a top pick. I mean, there were things that said like, oh, well, you could be like 5th round, something like that. But I was a pretty firm commitment to college. They knew I was a firm commitment to college. And so I think, I don't even know, 37th, 39th round is when I got drafted. I wasn't watching or anything. I think I was at Best Buy, like my dad messaged me or something. So, but then the scout started talking to me, and he showed up to a summer ball game, and I threw extremely well on that one. And then he's calling. He's like, hey, we're really interested. We really want to sign you. Like, can you go play in Duluth, Minnesota in a college summer ball thing? I'm like, man, I'm 17 from a town of 1,200 people. Like, the thought of going to Duluth, Minnesota just blew my mind. So I was like, listen, I'm not signing. Like, I'm going to college, and that was it. So there was a little pressure there to sign, but I pretty much knew from the start I was going to college, and that wasn't really on my radar.
So yeah, you go to college, Northwestern, Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I mean, you had a sensational season. Sounds like no regrets in that decision.
Yeah, it worked out really well. I'm really happy I went there. One, the school's great. I've got great friends from there, and I had the opportunity to pitch as a freshman, and that I still wasn't nationally known. I don't know if I ever got to like nationally known, but to be able to pitch as a freshman and throw well, that kind of opened things up for me, got me invited to the Cape Cod League, stuff like that, where if I was like most college freshmen, if I went to Missouri or some other schools like that, I would have redshirted or not played much. But instead, I was able to go out and perform right away, and I think that was a big boost for me for sure.
Yeah, we see a lot of guys in this area, their first year or two, they're really not in the mix, in the rotation or in the lineup, but you get that opportunity. Why do you think you were so successful in that first year?
Oh, man, we're going back. I mean, I was able to mix my pitches, from a young age. I had a good feel for throwing off speed, not trying to just blow it by guys, even though in high school that was the way I could pitch. A lot of that summer ball stuff I had to mix things in. So from the start in college, I wasn't learning to throw strikes or learning a changeup or curveball. I kind of had that stuff, and I was able to just go out there and keep guys off balance and pitch. And I think there was a little bit of blind innocence. Like, I didn't know, I didn't think anything of it. I was just out there pitching like I always had. Like, I pretty much had success my whole life. And, I went out there and you pitched against teams like Oklahoma State and stuff like that, and you didn't think anything of it because, it was just pitching. So, I think that had a lot to do with, me just pitching well from the start and just knowing that I was going to have that opportunity. They're like, hey, you're going to start for us pretty much no matter what. So I didn't really have that fear of losing my spot or, not knowing when I was going to start. It was pretty much, I think, every Saturday, from the start I was pitching.
Yeah, I look back to some of your stats that you had, and you threw a shutout against Michigan at that time. They were one of the best offenses in the country. And I think outings like that definitely got your name out a little bit more with the scouts. And in 2010, you're drafted by the Cubs. I mean, hometown kid getting drafted by a team from Illinois. I mean, can you write a better story?
I thought you couldn't write a worse story, honestly. At the
Oh no, are you a Cardinal fan?
diehard Cardinals,
Oh no.
and going to school up in Chicago, everybody there's Cubs fans,
Oh no.
their whole life. So they all thought it was funny. I thought it was just not the worst. I mean, obviously it's a great, you got drafted, you're going to play pro ball, like, and after being in the organization, especially when like Theo and Jed Hoyer came over, like I have nothing but great memories from my time with the Cubs. They were a great organization with great people. So I turned around. Like I don't have my hatred for the Cubs anymore, but yeah, at the time it was tough because I was diehard Cardinals. Any other team but the Cubs would have been great, but it ended up working out awesome for me.
Well, you don't go to the major leagues right away. I mean, you're in the
Right.
minor leagues for a while. We've all seen Bull Durham. We know the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Is the grind in the minor leagues as hard as they say it is?
Yeah. I mean, it's especially the lower levels. Like the first couple years, it's a lot of bus rides. Just it's just hard. Like you're not used to playing 140 games or whatever it is, and it's all performance. You're not playing as much as a team anymore. It's about like, hey, am I going to do well and am I going to get called up? You don't really care about the record, like the team and how they're doing as much. I mean, obviously it's more fun to win no matter what. Nobody wants to lose every day, but the ultimate goal is for you yourself to perform well and move up. And all your friends are your biggest competitors too. You're friends with all the other starters. Some of my best friends now are starters that I was competing with coming up. So the grind of the minor leagues is tough. And, you look back and it's a young man's game. Like when I was young, it's like, that's just what you did. It's fun. But like for me now, I'm like, there's no way I can do something like that anymore.
Was there a couple players that you really gravitated towards where you guys like formed a brothership?
Yeah. I mean, me, Kyle Hendricks and Dallas Wheeler were all really close. We all kind of came up together, pretty much AA, AAA, and we all kind of reached the big leagues at the same time. Obviously Kyle, went on to do much more than me and Dallas did, but it was hard because we're best friends, but we all knew that there was probably one, maybe two spots that we could ultimately get. And Kyle got it and ran with it. And, it's just, part of the game, but yeah, lifelong friendships for sure.
Well, you kind of talked about it. You got to find a way to stand out in the minor leagues to make that next step up. And in 2013, you threw a no-hitter for Tennessee. Did that get some eyes on you in the major league clubs to get that push up to the majors?
I think it helped a little bit. I mean, a no-hitter is a one-game thing, and it was awesome. I mean, again, memories that I have forever because, Javi Baez made an unbelievable play there in the ninth. There's things that you'll remember from a no-hitter, but overall it's performing, start to finish, time after time. And that no-hitter was great and it was awesome. But I think I went on a nice little run there afterwards for, almost a year where I was really pitching well. So I think, yes, the no-hitter kind of, got some news articles and stuff like that. But, in the front office, it's about how do you perform day in and day out. And, I went on a good run there from AA through AAA the next year and, got that opportunity later.
Was there a point in the minor leagues where you thought you were at the top of your game, or did that you feel came later, whether it was the majors, over in Korea? Where was it that you thought you were your absolute best?
Absolute best. It's kind of hard. You go through ups and downs and you go on good streaks. 2014, when I got called up, I was on a really good run. I was pitching really well. But I think overall as a pitcher, my 5 years in Korea, or I guess 4.5, those were, where I really felt comfortable in who I was as a pitcher. I wasn't, trying to do too much experimenting. It was, this is who I am. I know I can perform well doing it. And, I was comfortable in who I was as a pitcher, and that was as consistent as I've been probably my whole career.
Well, September 2nd, 2014, you get one of the biggest calls of your life.
Yeah.
You're going to the show. Take me through that. What are you feeling, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's you hear some rumors a little bit, because especially when it being September call-ups, everybody knows AAA. Like, you're kind of sitting around in the locker room waiting because there's going to be those 5, 6 guys that call up. And yeah, I was just sitting there, and the clubhouse manager came over to me and was like, "Hey, manager wants to see you off." At that point, you kind of know, kind of pretty confident that's what's going to happen. But to goosebumps right now, it's just something that what you're striving for. Even though it's not something that you're really expecting, you don't even think it's an option, but you're always trying to play really well so that you go to the next step, and that's the ultimate goal. And so, yeah, the manager tells me I'm going, and it's just surreal. I mean, it's the best feeling you can have. I didn't reach some of those. I didn't win World Series. I didn't, win a Cy Young or anything like that, which I'm sure is just another two. But for me, like, that was like the ultimate goal being reached.
Well, there's a couple days before you actually get on the mound, just like walking around Wrigley in the clubhouse. I mean, you got to feel like a kid in a candy shop, right?
A little bit. It's very nerve-wracking because you're trying. Luckily, we had a very young team at the time. I mean, that was the Cubs when they were, kind of blowing it to be good in the future. So most of the guys there were already buddies of mine, that called up earlier in the year. But it's still like you don't want to make any bad step or say anything wrong or not be somewhere you're supposed to be. So for a while and probably my whole time in the big leagues, I was only there for 30 days or so, was just don't screw anything up, but still the experience is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the big advantages you had was you probably knew a handful of guys in the clubhouse because you were on the same bus rides going around the country playing ball in the minor leagues. So.
Yeah, and a lot of them I was older than that. I'd been in the organization longer than, I don't think Chris was Brian, but like Javi Baez was there, Arizmendi Alcantara. There were Kyle Hendricks was already there too. So like for the most part, there were a few veterans on that team that I'd only met a few times, but for the most part, it was my buddies growing up. So that or coming up through the league. So I, still it's a whole different group. The coaching staff's new, and their big league coaching staff. The guys you're playing against are, obviously superstars that you've grown up watching. So it is different. It's a whole different feel.
So it doesn't take long. Less than a week after you get called up, you're on the mound in relief against the Pirates. Were you able to take it all in, like actually what you were doing and what you accomplished, how far you've come to this moment?
And not in the moment, in the moment it's just like, oh gosh, I got to get out here and try to throw strikes. You're just hoping to put the ball in the zone and get guys out. But then, yeah, after the game, you're just like, you can't believe that. Yeah, you finally did it. Yeah, I think it was that. And I haven't looked back on these in a long time. So trying to remember exactly where it was, when it was, is kind of difficult. But yeah, it was, I think my first strikeout was Garrett Cole. It was.
You struck out Andrew McCutchen. You struck out an MVP.
And I at the time, I mean, I was like, man, because you get the ball from your first strikeout, and it's all written out, strikeout Garrett Cole, and it's like I struck out a pitcher, but my second one was McCutchen, and I think that was the year after he won the MVP. Yeah. And man, if I could have just walked Cole or he rolled over one or something, that would have been great to have Andrew McCutchen written on there. But I mean, Garrett Cole's still a pretty cool name.
I was watching the clips back. It's on MLB TV. They have Eric Jokic's debut outing solid or something like that. And you strike out Andrew McCutchen looking, and he looks back at the umpire. He goes, that wasn't a strike. But he just walked back. But I was like, hey, that's okay, baby.
Oh, it is. Of course it is. No hitter ever. It could be right down the middle. They're going to say it wasn't a strike if they take it.
So, I mean, you get through those 4 innings. You have a pretty good outing. You only allow 1 earned run, and you go on to make several other appearances in relief. I mean, just preparing day to day. I mean, are you in meetings? What are you doing? Like, just prepare for games.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little different for me. I was a starter, and have always really been a starter. And it was kind of not like I was going to piggyback off someone. So I kind of knew days that I would throw. It wasn't like I was sitting in the bullpen, waiting for a phone call like at any time. I kind of knew when I was going to throw, but yeah, it was. I think people get that September call up to get them that experience of okay, get that out of the way. The nerves, the first time in the scouting meetings, first times with all that, especially on a team that we were out of it long ago. So that's what that September call up is mainly for is, hey, get out there, get your first games, get used to the environment and, see how you handle those situations.
So you pitch at Wrigley, you pitch in LA. That's got to be awesome. And then
Against LA.
Against LA.
I pitched at Pittsburgh.
Right.
Yeah, right.
You start against Milwaukee, though. I mean, It's got to be the biggest moment of your life competitively, right?
Right. That was, the hardest part about being a starter is like the lead up to things. Like you get that anxiety leading into a game still. I would still get anxious leading into it. And then once you get on the mound, it's normal. But that one was a little different. You go out to the outfield, you play catch on the side of the field. I remember my first two, I threw completely over the catcher's head from about 15 feet because I was just so nervous. And in that game, I think I was kind of all over the place. I think I walked a bunch of guys. I don't know exactly what happened. I think I got out of some jams. I think I went 4 innings or something like that. But yeah, it's a whole different feel knowing that you're starting this game off. You're the one that needs to get the innings, and again, it's to give you that experience and see how you handle it and, get you ready for what could have been the next year, 2 years after that.
You go 4 1/3 innings. Cubs get the win. You had a solid outing, only gave up 1 earned run. I mean, is that the start that gave you the confidence to say, I can pitch at any level in the world?
Yeah, a little bit, but I also was kind of like, I need to take another step here. Like yes, I only gave up 1 run, but I felt like, I wasn't getting the swing and misses that I used to in AAA and stuff like that. They were a little more on my stuff. So I knew that I'd have to make an adjustment, going into that next year, 2 years to kind of cement myself as a big league level pitcher. Some injuries, some stuff happen and it keeps that from happening. That's just life. That's baseball. But, it was a very proud moment for me for sure. And, to be able to grind through that game and give up 1 run when I knew I wasn't that good, was nice. But yeah, it was a great experience and wish I could have pitched more in the big leagues, but I'm pretty happy with how my career ended up.
So you bounce around a couple of years in the minor leagues. You make a decision to leave the States and go play in Korea. It's got to be a difficult decision to make. Am I wrong?
I had kind of known for a few, like after that 2014 year and then 15, I can't remember if it was 15. I think it was 16 where my arm just wasn't feeling good. But I felt like those next 2 years, it's like, okay, I'm kind of that AAA could get a call-up guy, but probably not going to stick in the big leagues. Just, being realistic. And I was always hoping for that opportunity in Korea or Japan at the time because, you feel like that's where you can go to earn a good living and get an opportunity to play every day as a starter, be important to a team. So, but like there's only 3 spots for 10 teams. So there was only 30 guys that are over there. And so it was always just kind of a little lucky for a guy to see you at the right time. So I wasn't expecting to go to Korea, but I always hoped that would be an opportunity. And yeah, when it came, it was honestly more just excitement. I was just thrilled that I was going to be one of those guys that got a spot over there. And I was nervous that it was going to fall through or something. So yeah, it was really just excitement. And then obviously once you sign, then it's like, oh man, we're going all the way across the world. Now the fear and the concern kind of kicks in, especially for, my wife. Like that's
Right.
a whole different world for her. And she's not doing anything comfortable. Like for me, it's at the field, it's baseball. But for her, it's just a whole different world. So it definitely changed our lives. But, used to it. And over 5 years, it was the best decision of our life.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to have a good support system at home. And yeah, your wife was pretty tremendous on going over there with you and supporting your dream. Was there any players maybe from America that kind of helped you along in that transition in Korea?
Yeah, of course. It's probably like he's honestly my best friend now, Jake Brigham. He was already a pitcher on that team. And I knew Jake very little from when I was with Tennessee in Double-A with the Cubs. He got traded over from the Rangers. So he came to Double-A, and I knew him for like 4 or 5 days. He got hurt, and they actually sent him back to the Rangers. So he was there for 5 days, and I knew him there. And then when I signed in Korea, he was the other pitcher on the team, and he'd been there for a few years. And so immediately we hit it off. I'm asking him every question I can about Korea, what to expect, what to know. And if it wasn't for him and his family too, we wouldn't have adjusted as well as we did. And, it really helped us because he already knew everything. It helped us to adjust and for me to perform well, when I did get there.
I mean, you talked about it a couple of times, asking for an opportunity to show what you can do. And
Right.
I think in Korea was the real time that you got an opportunity for an extended period of time to show
Right.
what you can do. And your stats back that up. I got them all right here. Your rookie season, you had 13 wins. You won the ERA title in 2020 with a 2.14 ERA. You tied for the league lead in wins with 16, had an ERA under 3 that year, by the way. And then you logged a career high in innings 2 years ago. I mean, every year you found a way to almost reinvent yourself, a new wrinkle in your game. I mean, you really were pitching great in Korea.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes back to just knowing that you're getting that opportunity and, you're important over like for us foreign guys in Korea, we have to be the Max Scherzers, the Jacob deGroms for their, and, so in the States it was, okay, we might be able to use Eric when we need a break for someone. That was it. That I was really a nobody, a fill-in guy. And then I go to Korea and it's like, you have that, the pressure, they need you and they need you to perform well. And I felt like I thrived off that, to be somebody and to be somebody that, the team needs in order for them to do well. And your focus is solely on helping the team win instead of, oh, am I going to get my opportunity? Is it like, when am I going to get the call up? That was everything, to know this is my spot. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to perform for the team, and then everything you're doing is just trying to make little adjustments because you're facing the same guys over and over again. Where in AAA, if you go to AAA for 3 years, you're going to face the Memphis Redbirds, but they're going to be 3 different teams because they got called up or traded or stuff like that. In Korea, you're facing the same guys over and over and over again. So you do have to adjust. And I think that's always been, the biggest strength in my game is I study a lot. I try to figure out ways to get hitters out. I've never been a rely on my stuff kind of pitcher. And so over in Korea, the cat and mouse game is where I thrive. And I think that was one of the biggest reasons as to why I had so much success over there.
So you're coming off an injury. 1, how's the rehab going? And 2, what's next for Eric Jokic?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of tough timing because the injury wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't like I need Tommy John. Like, I had a grade 2 hip adductor tear. So really it doesn't affect my day-to-day life at all. It's just the explosive movement of pitching that it just wouldn't hold up. And so it was going to be a 6 to 8 week thing. And in Korea, they get 3 foreign player spots. That's it. And if I'm out for 6 to 8 weeks, that's 6 to 8 starts that they need. And our team, we're in the bottom of we weren't playing that well at the time. And so they needed a foreign guy to pitch. If they didn't have one, you have to dig into the minor leagues in Korea. It's just not very deep. And so I understood, like, I knew that's the way the game's worked over there, and it has to. So I'm healthy now. I mean, I feel good now, but it just the timing of it wasn't good. They had to make a move, and they didn't want to. I didn't want them to, but knew it had to happen, and so it's tough, but it also gives another guy an opportunity that I had 5 years ago. Not being a big name, getting a chance to come over and prove myself in Korea for 5 years is a long, long time, and especially over there. And so now it's like you see another guy come over, and it's like, okay, now let's see if he's going to be the one to take that opportunity.
I mean, what's next? Are you wanting to still play ball, or is it time to hang it up? What are you thinking?
I've we were planning on this probably being the final year anyway. So to end it in June isn't exactly what we wanted, but the send-off that the team gave us, that was great. I do feel older. We've got two boys, a third boy on the way now. I've told her and kind of everyone, like, we're giving it a chance just to see how it feels to be done. If in a month or 2 months I start feeling like, man, I really want to get back out there and do it, then I start building up. I start doing what I need to do to try to be prepared for most likely like a spring training invite next year. That's kind of where my mentality is right now, but I do want to give every chance I can to be like, okay, like what, like, can I be done? Am I okay with being done? And we kind of see how it goes.
Well, I guarantee you, once you get into the little league circuit, coaching the boys, no one's going to have more experience on their resume than you. So
No.
I'm expecting some titles.
Yeah, we'll see. I know that those boys are going to have a little bit of pressure on them, but I'm not pushing them at all. I hope they try all the sports, try everything, even if they don't like sports. But they've been around it. They're going to be around it. I'm sure they're going to enjoy playing baseball, but I'll help them however I can, and hopefully they enjoy it.
Hey, I kept you on a little bit longer than I was planning, but you have such an interesting career. I wanted to dig into all of it. Before we go, I got 10 questions here. They're all speed
Perfect.
questions. So
all
just
right.
First thing that comes to your head, everybody that's going to interview is going to get asked the same questions.
Perfect.
So pregame playlist, what are you rocking to before each start?
Oh, I am a very calm guy. So like I like to try to be relaxed. So like John Mayer, honestly, is the main. Yep.
Okay. Not what I was expecting to start out with, but okay.
Right.
Go-to movie you would suggest to somebody. What's a movie they've never seen that you would suggest?
Gosh. I think it's called Only the Brave. I think it's one about firefighters and is that the right one? I don't know. My wife loves it, and we watch it. It's a good movie. Fires in California or something like that, and some firefighters over there.
Putting it on my watch list right now. Perfect. Yeah. Go-to meal. You're going to have any meal you want. What are you having?
Go-to meal, probably like a just your steak and potatoes type guy. Pre-game meal was always Subway sandwich. I had to have the consistent. I knew what I was putting in my body before I pitched. Yeah.
That's a veteran pitcher right there. Hobby outside of baseball. Golf. What are you into?
Golf. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. I love it. Best teammate you ever had?
Jake Brigham. Yeah, he made the most impact on my career for sure.
Biggest career accomplishment? I know you're going to want to say starting in the major leagues, but is there another one outside of that really sticks with you?
Again, the single accomplishments are tough. I'm most proud of what I did in Korea for sure. Like, yes, making the big leagues was huge. That was the goal as a kid. But to make the impact I did in Korea was awesome. That was probably, in general, the thing I remember most about my career.
If you could face any opponent, any era, who would you want to go up against?
Probably Albert Pujols, and I did in a spring training game against the Angels, and he flipped this little pop-up to right field that landed on the line.
Oh.
He gets a double, and he's at second base. I'm getting the ball from the second baseman, and he's smiling at me and just like shaking his head like, I don't know. And I to him, it was completely meaningless. Spring training
Hold,
leader.
hold, hold on. You gave up a bloop double
Bloop
to Albert Pujols?
Albert Pujols, yeah, and that, but him just smiling at me and shaking his head, like that was like the ultimate thing for me. The ultimate thing. I'll remember it forever.
That's awesome. All right. Who is your favorite sports hero growing up?
Sports hero growing up. I mean, I watched a lot of Tom Glavine, because he was a lefty.
There you go.
I mean, it's probably Albert Pujols, though. Again, just any of those Cardinal guys, Yadi Molina, Wainwright. Those are the guys you grew up watching.
Who's the GOAT when it comes to sports? Any sport, the greatest of all time?
Tiger Woods.
Yeah. It's hard to deny Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
And then last one, I think is the most important question. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening in the area, whether they're junior high, high school, just picking up a bat for the first time, that maybe want to follow in your footsteps. What advice would you give to them to kind of have the same road that you have to the major leagues and Korea and a lot of success in ball?
Yeah, I'd say don't get too far ahead of yourself. Kind of enjoy where you are now. I know there's a lot of summer travel ball and all that, and specializing from a young age. Don't be thinking about college scholarships when you're 12 years old. Think about playing the game well, having fun, being with your buddies. That's what you'll remember, because I'm very fortunate, and I know I was extremely talented. I worked very, very hard, and I know that not many people get to do what I did. So for most people, it's going to be remembering the fun you had, not worrying about what was going to happen next in college or pro ball or whatever. So just focusing on where you're at right now, and then those things will all come in time.
Eric, you're a pro, man. Thanks a lot for hanging out with me today, taking time out of your day. We're all cheering for you, man. You're one of the biggest heroes in our area. So I just wanted to geek out a little bit and just say that we're super proud of you, dude.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Glad I was the first one for you.
First, and nobody can take that away from you.
Right.
That might be your biggest accomplishment from all time. So
I'll put it on board.
I did. We'll be following you. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Yep, bye.